El ICA le da la bienvenida a este evento y agradece su participación. Estas son algunas recomendaciones para mejorar la calidad de la videoconferencia. Habilite su micrófono solo en el momento que le den la palabra. Es importante mantenerlo en silencio cuando otra persona está hablando. Por favor, tener encendida la cámara en todo momento para que otras personas lo puedan ver. Si necesita atender algo personal, puede apagarla y encenderla al volver. Agradecemos por favor poner en silencio sus teléfonos celulares para evitar alguna interrupción en la videoconferencia. Recomendamos cuide su postura y su posición frente al computador. Para esta reunión contaremos con interpretación simultánea. Es muy importante que cuando ingrese al enlace de Zoom del idioma de su preferencia, debe hablar en ese idioma. Por ejemplo, si ingreso al enlace de español, debe hablar en español en todo momento. Al finalizar el video, les pedimos el favor de hacer silencio durante 30 segundos. Una vez finalizado ese tiempo, el moderador o conductor puede iniciar la reunión. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure for us here at ICA Canada to host a new webinar, another webinar. This is our second in 2 months, I think,
Yes,
with
it is.
Sica, with Central America. And welcome to the House of Agriculture. I'm the country representative for ICA here in Canada, based in Ottawa. I have the pleasure of welcoming all of their excellencies from the Sica region in Central America and Dominican Republic. And today's topic is coffee. Beautiful beverage. It's actually the most important beverage in Canada. 71% of Canadians had coffee yesterday, apparently. I was checking some stats before we started. And the average beverage is about 2.7 cups per day. And it turns out that digging further, I discovered that retired people drink more coffee than people who work. So that was a bit of news I didn't know. And the cups, they're very, very popular. They have about 30% of the market share now. So the topic is timely. It's a good theme. It's a pleasure for us to host this space once again. And I would say to the people online, if you want to follow Spanish or English, there is an interpretation selection. There's a choice at the bottom on Zoom to the right. It looks like a globe. You can select your language there and stick to that language for the rest of the entire webinar. So I don't have much more to say in terms of housekeeping. I'd like to invite His Excellency Ricardo Snow from the Ambassador for El Salvador to say a few words. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Jean-Charles. Estimado embajador de Costa Rica, embajador de Panamá, embajador de República Dominicana, encargado de negocios de Guatemala y consejero de Honduras.
Thank you very much, Ambassador from Costa Rica, from Guatemala, from Honduras, and from I'm the Ambassador for El Salvador. It's a pleasure to have all of you here, and thank you to Hans Langebart, our main speaker. It's an honor to be here speaking to you as the El Salvador ambassador that is now the current pro tempore chairing of Sica. So I'm glad to be here with this second webinar that we organize. It's always interesting to be part of the ICA's events, and we hope to have more of these activities in the future. Thank you very much for organizing this webinar to host a topic that is very important for the of our region and of the economies of our countries, coffee with zero waste in Central America. Now, worldwide, coffee continues to be one of the most important agricultural products for our economies, generating a lot of important income for the exporting companies and providing a lot of work opportunities for millions of people around the world. In Canada, specifically, there is a high rate of consumption per capita. As John Charles was saying at the beginning, it's an average expenditure of $35 per capita, which is the highest in America and one of the highest in the world. Our region is very rich and fertile, and we have the benefit of having some of the most delicious product in the world. In July of 2023, the exports of in any shape of size in coffee in Mexico and Central America increased from 9.4%. We went from 1.66 million sacks to 1.65 in 2022. Although we are facing a significant challenge in terms of sustainability and waste management in this industry. In environmental terms, coffee is a bush that contributes to carbon fixing. It helps stabilize the soils and allows the preservation of most of the biodiversity, original biodiversity of the land. But there's also significant waste, such as the peel, the pulp, it's the paper that is used to process the fruit and through its production. And when we use the product of the coffee, when we reduce pulp and the paper, we are not only reducing waste, but we are generating new options for energy development, or for construction, or for other products that our expert is going to be introducing today. Also, a commitment with zero waste is able to support innovation. We are seeing the small and medium companies finding new creative ways of transforming what used to be a waste in product into a valuable resource that can generate new income streams and more revenue streams and other opportunities of employment. And we have a lot of challenges in the supply chains, especially in traditional practices in industries. A lot of coffee plantations continue to use conventional procedures that generate a lot of organic waste. Adopting zero waste practices is going to require education, financial support, technical support, and an innovative focus so that we can reuse this waste in a very imaginative way, and investing in many cases in infrastructure and technology for small coffee production producers to change into zero waste may mean significant financial investment, which in many cases is going to be a barrier to adopt the technologies. We also believe it's important to have collaboration with international organizations as well as government, local government, and private sector involvement. Imagine a scenario where in each stage of the coffee production, all the way to the consumption, we are able to have every morning a coffee that has generated zero waste. And that is and that is gonna mean a lot of commitment, and it's gonna be our responsibility both from the environment point of view, but from the economic point of view as well. Today, we're gonna be hearing from several producers that have stepped in and opted to change into this new ways of doing things, and we hope to exchange experiences and knowledge about how to implement this new kind of supply chain. We hope that this is for the benefit of the future of our coffee producers, and this opens the network to create more people involved in zero waste coffee in Sica. When we implement practices like this, we are increasing our competitiveness worldwide, where the consumer are more and more looking for sustainable products that are quality, and an identification of a zero waste coffee label. And will not only improve our product strength in the market, but also it will increase our reputation as leaders in sustainability. So it's time to get together with this commitment. The transition towards zero waste coffee production process is not easy, but it's a challenge that we can approach all of together in the region. Thank you very much.
So this is a timely topic. Canada is among the most wasteful societies in the world per capita in terms of food and beverage. And so the coffee can play a leadership role. And being the most important beverage in this country, I think it can inspire other sectors, other industries, the entire food chain, to react to reducing waste and becoming more sustainable. And Central America is a contributor to a great product. I would like to invite Angel Gonzalez, who will be our moderator. He's the consejero de la Embajada de la República Dominicana en Canadá. Over to you, Angel.
¿Sí me escuchan?
Can you hear me? Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Levalet. And thank you, Dr. Levalet. Please, let me see if I can play my video.
El Salvador, tierra de café,
El Salvador, it's a land of coffee.
tierra de trabajo,
It's a land of work. where we produce with pride to make the best.
Que cultivamos con el corazón, ese aroma único que es nuestro y nos caracteriza, ese sabor que millones de personas compartimos dentro y fuera de nuestras fronteras. Desde hoy, el mundo puede disfrutar el sabor de nuestro país en una sola marca. Café de El Salvador, simplemente especial.
So coffee in Panama is all picked by hands. It's a craft industry and by no means a massive industry. So definitely no machine picking. The indigenous communities, the Nove community, they have been picking coffee and working with coffee for generations. They really take care of their lands and it's really our legacy. And we try to keep it that way for people living in Panama and for people visiting Panama, interested in Panama's coffee and Panama geisha. And that way they can appreciate its beauty and hopefully come again. Because when people visit, they give back to these small communities who will then continue to prosper and thrive.
I cannot wait to see it in real life.
Café Santo Domingo is one of the most important brands in America, and without a doubt, one that most Dominicans identifies inside and outside the Dominican Republic. It all started more than 75 years ago in Baní, a province in the south of the Dominican Republic, with the creation of Industrias Banilejas in Dubán. The company was born as a green coffee marketer and, little by little, it grew into an exporter of Dominican gold coffee, well known in the United States and Europe. Soon after, the roasted coffee business developed, and from there, Café Santo Domingo was born, a brand that turned into the preferred coffee in Dominican homes, and today, a solid brand that represents an entire country.
No hay que dejar perder el nido, ni el colorido del tucán, ni el meditar de la lechuza, ni el canto de alcaraván. Que nunca se cansen las loras, ni las chachalacas de gritar. Que los martines pescadores tengan ríos para pescar. Que el cielo se manche de garzas y de pelícanos el mar.
Bien, muchísimas gracias por la proyección de
Well,
estos
thank
videos.
you very much. Thank you for showing the promotional videos that we prepared, looking to explore the wonderful things of coffee production in the Sica region and the tourism we can do in these countries. Now, good morning and welcome everybody to the webinars, Coffee Zero Waste Coffee in the Sica region. My name is Angel Gonzalez. I'm an advisor for the Dominican Republic Embassy in Canada, and it's an honor to be a moderator today. This event is a unique opportunity to look into the sustainable practices in one of the industries that is most vital and emblematic worldwide, the coffee. Um, Coffee production. Today, we are here to address a crucial item in agricultural point of view. How can the coffee industry evolve towards more sustainable and environmentally respectful practices, specifically through the reduction and sometimes even the elimination and efficient management of waste? This focus is not only vital to protect our environment, but also to improve the long-term sustainability of the coffee production, an economic pillar of our region. Right now, we will get into the details of our webinar, giving the floor to Hans Lagenbarn, a master toaster in Happy Gold Coffee Company and main supporter of the zero waste coffee production. Hans is going to talk to us about waste management and the growing demand worldwide of this kind of coffee. Before we start with his presentations, let me read a little bit about his profile and his experience. Mr. Hans Lagerman is a true artisan in coffee toasting and with a true scientific understanding of the coffee from the seed to the cup. Hans, with social anthropology as a background, has constant visits to the origins of the coffee to support and work with the farmers and suppliers. For the past few years, he's been focusing a lot more in the fascinating world of the coffee products. His latest baby is the zero waste coffee product. And so let me give you Mr. Hank Slaggerman with his presentation titled What to Do with All This Waste, Exploring International Demand for Zero Waste Coffee. Hanks, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. For all the complete introduction was wonderful. And I want to start right away because we have 4 speakers in total, so no time to waste. The Zero Waste Coffee Project, what to do with all that waste. That's the title of my presentation today, as mentioned. And I want to start with 2 quotes from the article, Climate Change Undermines Nearly All Sustainable Development Goals, published on September 14, 2023 by the UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme. Firstly, at the half-time point of the 2030 agenda, the science is clear. The planet is far off track from meeting its climate goals. Secondly, so far, there has been very limited progress in reducing the emissions gap for 2030. To get on track to meet the Paris Agreement will require large-scale, rapid, and systemic transformations. End of quote. Agriculture, and this is common sense, is a main contributor to greenhouse gas emissions and emits all 3 greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. And coffee, as we know, is a big player in agriculture. Regardless of the way we consume our coffee, the most greenhouse gas emitting phase in the life cycle of coffee is the coffee production. Depending on which source you cite and what you include in your calculation, it contributes between 40 to 95% of the total coffee-related emissions. This tells us that the main focus regarding greenhouse gas reduction has to be on the coffee growing and processing. A main contributor to greenhouse gas emissions are nitrous oxide emitting fertilizers, the production of which requires large quantities of natural gas. For that reason, it is crucial to replace these synthetic fertilizers with organic fertilizers. If the biomass is processed properly, it releases significantly less greenhouse gases. Is the waste from coffee a biomass that is suitable to be turned into fertilizer? If not a fertilizer, at least into a soil amendment. We will hear more about this later from two of our speakers. But first, let's have a quick look at a few pictures. I share my screen. So yeah, it works. Okay, so that's the thing everybody knows, the coffee harvest. And here you have the nice, beautiful red cherries. And this is the anatomy of a coffee cherry. So you have the outer skin, then you have the pulp, but this is mostly one piece. You don't separate the skin and the pulp. Then you have the mucilage, which is a sticky layer on the parchment. And in the parchment is the bean. There are usually two beans in one cherry. And on the bean, you see these white spots. This is the silver skin, which is also going in the bean. Reverse, you have the beans, the parchments, on the parchment, the mucilage, and all together are in the cherry, in the pulp. This is a coffee mill with a so-called demucilator. The mucilage is mechanically removed. The coffee cherry is separated in pulp, mucilage, and parchment in one step. In the traditional way, you have to ferment first the parchment coffee with the mucilage. Bacteria break it down, then you have to wash it off, and you have all this mucilage in the water that's going in different places like ponds or rivers or on grass. Let's make this picture a little. This doesn't work. Whoopsies. Okay, doesn't work. Okay, doesn't matter. So, this is coffee pulp after removal from the cherry. That's what it looks on most farms or smaller mills. And what unfortunately also happens often, and I saw this on many places, the pulp starts to rot because it's simply too much and the farmers don't know what to do. Small volumes of pulp are tried to get cascara for teas and drinks, but that's very recent. Larger quantities are used as a fertilizer or soil amendment, but often not processed in a proper way. So it's not the best thing to do. This is parchment after the removal from the beans. And in places where your drum dryers are in use, the parchment serves as fuel. Otherwise, there are a lot of options. This is what happens in the roasting facility. You have the roasting machine, you put in the green beans, and then through the expansion of the beans in the roasting process, this silver skin detaches. And the silver skin is the only byproduct of coffee roasting. And larger roasting companies started to press this silver skin or chaff in pellets and bring it, for example, to a biogas plant. But smaller companies don't have any use for it, and it would be too expensive for them to press it in pellets and so on. And there are many small coffee roasteries. This is the end. You see these large bags with spent coffee grounds from a coffee shop. They are going mostly to the dumpster and then to the landfills or to the organic waste at best. But this is the end of this presentation. I wanted to show you only the byproducts that we have in the coffee industry. So it's the spent coffee grounds, It's the pulp, it's the parchment, it's the mucilage. So, according to the ICO, the International Coffee Organization, the rapid expansion of global consumption increased from 4.2 million tons in 1970 to 10.18 million tons in 2021-22. If you consider that only about 4% of the whole coffee cherry that we just saw ends up in a cup of coffee, the remaining 96% of a cherry are considered byproducts, from pulp to spent coffee grounds. Since a coffee bean itself is about 20% of the weight of a cherry, we can calculate that momentarily about 45 to 50 million tons of byproducts are generated worldwide annually. 45 to 50 million tons. Another way to visualize this, 50 million tons is equal to the weight of 35 million average-sized cars. This means, globally, we produce annually 35 million extra cars without having a plan or strategy for their disposal, recycling, or upscaling. As Central America covers roughly 10% of the global coffee production, we can say that it produces annually the weight of 3.5 million useless cars. To meet the growing global demand, coffee production is expected to double by 2050. This means the amount of coffee byproducts will approach 100 million tons. In other words, an additional 70 million unwanted cars. To deal with this huge volume of byproducts in the whole coffee chain, we need urgent action, smart solutions, coordination, and long-term planning. Luckily, awareness is growing among people, companies, and organizations that things have to change. They are recognizing that the byproducts of the whole coffee chain cause a number of environmental problems, from greenhouse gas emissions to water pollution. They are also seeing that they can turn waste into new raw materials or products. They are learning that all the byproducts can be highly valuable if treated and applied properly. For example, you can sell your cascara, the dried coffee pulp, to beverage companies as they are under pressure to offer healthier drinks. But they also use it for their energy drinks. For example, there are numerous well-known energy and sports drinks brands in the US that use cascara as source of natural caffeine, which is superior over synthetic caffeine. You can follow coffee farmers and companies like Natu Cafe in Colombia or Neox in Colombia and Costa Rica that turn the coffee mucilage into a delicious ingredient for baking and beverages. I tell you, I tasted this stuff and it's really fantastic. You could extract fibers, antioxidants, proteins, and so much more and sell it to the food, cosmetic, and health industries, where the demand for natural ingredients is steadily increasing. For example, Nivea, the large cosmetic company, launched this year its first face cream that contains coffee oil, produced by the startup Café Bueno, founded by 3 young Colombians in Denmark. As mentioned before, you can turn the byproducts into fertilizer or soil amendments, and you will save significantly on synthetic fertilizers. You can recruit different bacteria to help in the cause and transform the pulp into whole new products like imitation leather, something that Bell Society in Indonesia started just a year ago. Just quickly, yeah, this is like this leather looks like. Yeah, it can have different properties, stronger, more flexible, different structures. You can make things like this small wallet. This is all from coffee pulp. You can make shoes, fashion, whatever. You can supply the recovered compounds to companies who use them for new bio-based products or turn them into energy. The opportunities are sheer endless. The number of people seizing these opportunities is increasing. But these are mostly isolated actions. They are not always successful and often only partial or stopgap solutions. For example, coffee cups made of spent coffee grounds and other organic products, but which cannot be recycled and are difficult to biodegrade, are not a solution. And there are a number of these cups on the market. And also other products, all made from spent coffee grounds, lots of it. Well, in my opinion, this is all okay. We are just at the beginning. People are experimenting, often have to start from scratch with a lot of trial and error and financial issues. We only have to learn from this. We have to take a more strategic approach and do it better in the future. Upscaling the byproducts is embedded in the idea of circular economy. No waste at all should be left behind. For that, to achieve a waste-free and more circular economy within the whole coffee chain, the following 10 points have to be fulfilled. 1. More research on all coffee byproducts. 2. More collaboration between researchers, coffee growers, and the private sector. 3. Demonstration and training centers where farmers, but also roasters and coffee shop owners learn how they can reduce their waste. 4. Establishment of a pool of upcycling consultants. 5. Uncomplicated access to loans, investments, grants, and funding for those who upscale their byproducts. 6. Governmental programs that help to accelerate this whole process. 7. Development of guidelines, recommendations, policies, regulations, and best practices. 8. A timeline when a waste-free coffee production and consumption should be reached. 9. Creation of marketing channels and platforms. And last but not least, having robust communication channels and networks. But one thing we have to keep in mind, and here I totally agree with the following statement of Sjoerd Panhuisen and Frederick de Vries, the two lead authors of the Disruptive Coffee Barometer that oversees the results regarding sustainability efforts in the coffee industry. Quote, "The stark reality is that sustainability challenges cannot be effectively tackled with sporadic projects and vague commitments." Because this quote is so important, I will repeat it. The stark reality is that sustainability challenges cannot be effectively tackled with sporadic projects and vague commitments. On October 11, 2023, Axel Renaud, co-founder and CEO of Net Zero, a French company that turns the husk of sun-dried coffees into biochar, posted on LinkedIn, quote, "My takeaways heading back from the Climate Week in New York. On the positive side, lots of action, huge ambitions, concrete solutions emerging, and good momentum. Everyone was there into it, for real. On the so-so side, we are late. There are many more experiments and pilots than deployment at scale. We risk missing the 2030, 40, and 50 goalposts by a lot. Some are even talking about moving the goalposts. This is bad. On the darker side, uncertainty is slowing many initiatives and might kill some promising ones. Regularity uncertainty, fiscal uncertainty, economic uncertainty, carbon markets uncertainty. We need a clearer set of rules to start committing the required capital at scale. End of quote. At a recent Food Hub event in Germany regarding the waste management in agriculture and the food industry, the participants were asked, quote, "Do we need legislation or incentives to ensure companies are rethinking their side streams?" End of quote. All participants answered with, "Yes, we need it." There was also a statement regarding the transparency of what is feasible. Quote, "Plenty of innovators are interested in developing new technologies or products around upcycling solutions. What is needed is a central source of information. For instance, a database of what side streams are generated where, in what quantity, quality, and seasonality." End of quote. In our case, this is a task that could be fulfilled by the aforementioned demonstration and training center. For example, in these centers, effectiveness, acceptability, and affordability of upscaling methods and technologies can be tested, and knowledge, ideas, and support will spread from there all across the Sica countries. Plan Trifinio on El Salvador's side, where we already had corresponding talks, could be a good candidate to start with. Another important aspect has to be mentioned. Coffee buyers are looking increasingly towards the sustainable production of their coffee. For that, a sustainable management also of the byproducts will become a key factor in selling coffee. But what is a sustainable management of the byproducts? The answer is short. We don't know. There are no byproduct-specific recommendations, no regulations, policies, or certifications. But how to prove to a buyer that you manage your byproducts well? How to prove that you are a waste-free grower, co-op, or mill? Well, if all those criteria and regulations are not existing yet, we have to develop and establish them. But this can only be done by an authority, or in case of Sica, by a consortium of authorities. I think this would be a great opportunity for Sica to spearhead such a development and to show leadership and responsibility. A good starting point for a zero-waste coffee production could be, let's say, a 2-day conference plus a small expo. National and international speakers could present what has been done so far, what is still ahead of us, and they could showcase their products. A foundation stone for future collaboration, networking, and innovation would be laid. Final remark. Sucafina, one of the largest international coffee traders, mentions in its Sustainability Report 2022, quote, "Customers have been placing growing importance on responsible consumption. This is a factor that is reshaping the whole market into a new business model for coffee." End of quote. It's time to get to work. Thanks for listening.
Muchísimas gracias al señor Lagenbaum por compartirnos sus experiencias.
Thank you, Mr. Lagerman, for sharing your experience, for illustrating us about the importance of raising awareness and that the things need to change, and about the advantages of this practice of producing zero waste coffee to counterbalance the effect of climate change, and how we can use coffee waste for daily use. Before giving the floor to our next speaker, we invite the participants to feel free to share your questions, concerns for the panelists using the chat box the Zoom platform has. And at the end of the presentations, we're going to have a questions and answer session that we could use to respond to the concerns and questions. Now, let's continue with the presentation of Mr. Jimmy Porras Barrientos. He is a research development and innovation manager at Cope Terrazú, Costa Rica. He will share his valuable experience in going towards zero waste coffee production. He is a master in innovation and entrepreneurship and a specialist in environmental health. He studied at the University of Costa Rica. He currently works as research development and innovation manager at Cooperative Terrazú, searching for alternatives for the use of coffee byproducts, technological applications, and links with the academia for applied research and innovation projects. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimmy Porras. Hello, good morning. It is a pleasure for me to share with you today and to share a little bit the experience we have developed in Copetarrazú, Costa Rica. I hope this presentation is an important contribution for the objectives we have with this webinar. Let me share my screen. Just let me know when you can see it.
Sí, gracias.
Bueno, en Copetarrazú nos
In
gusta.
Copetarrazú, we love to say that we are more than coffee. Let me give you a short description about Copetarrazú. It's a cooperative that created in 1960, October 13. It was initially founded by 228 small coffee producers, and we can melt 6,000 quintals of coffee. And today the cooperative has some 4,800 associates. 85% are small producers, less than 4 hectares, and we process 300,000 quintals. And 90% of our coffee is exported directly. And we have 13 commercial business. Copetarrazú defined as a strategic line and to be leader and national leader in innovation of coffee activity and excellence in product management and services. So developing different projects because we consider that the coffee fruit has a lot to offer. And Hans gave us a quite interesting scenario of what coffee represents and the byproducts as an opportunity to take advantage of it. Generally, we generate 30,000 tons of coffee pulp, 27,000 tons of husk or parchment, 17 millions of pulp juice liters, because the coffee pulp, excuse me, that the presentation is advancing. It is in automatic mode, but I will correct that. 17 millions of pulp juice, because remember that in Costa Rica, we have, we are one of the milling centers or hubs, and we have 9,875 tons of mucilage. We also focus in SDOs such as the 2, zero hunger, 8, decent work and economic growth, 12, responsible consumption and production, and 13, climate action. Remember that coffee is one of the crops that can be seen greatly affected because of climate changes. We also focus in the Agenda 2030. We see the bioeconomy as a part of a new vision of development, taking it to the application in agriculture, but also we see opportunities in possibilities in health and industry. As I was saying, the group has a lot to offer. This is a graph that we have developed of the potential of everything that could be developed with coffee. Normally, we focus in gold coffee, which is the coffee that we roast, and we may have it as roasted coffee or packaging. We can sell it on a cup of coffee on a cafeteria, a cappuccino, for example. There's pods. We can also use the gold coffee or roasted coffee to prepare beer or extracts where we use the roasted coffee from this gold coffee to use the antioxidants it offers. But if we focus in byproducts, the fan extends and talking about the mucilage, we can extract pectins, we can develop fertilizers or flavorings for food industry, cosmetics, for example, and to extract flavonoids with different applications. The coffee pulp as such can be turned into flour for human consumption, for bread, cereals, and also as an ingredient to prepare beer. And the most traditional thing and where we see an important opportunity is in creating manure with organic fertilizers. It's also a good substrate for the production of edible fungi, for feed, animal feed, also for infusions. The pulp juice can be used to generate ethanol, and we can also develop biofuels, beverage, and others. The husk as such can be transformed into flour, and the most common use that we do in Costa Rica is mass in the drying coffee process. There's also an energy use that can be made with the byproducts of, for biogas, for example. We can introduce the pulp in gasification processes, energy generation, and all the possibilities Hans mentioned, for example, with the bio carbon aspect. In Copetarasu, we focus in research and development to have innovation and technology for a sustainable agriculture. We would like to find innovative solutions that help to the coffee production. So to have these small producers that are part of this cooperative. We also work to promote a culture of sustainable production where we need to make the right use. And this image, you can see part of the process of composting that we perform here in the cooperative. And well, we would like to use that much the coffee fruit. Some examples of things that we do are here. Coffee pulp flour, the product that you see there, we have pills to use the therapeutic use of coffee. Project developed that we have the composting coffee pulp, flour, ethanol, and beverages, and another project that is related to the use of technological applications. So we use bacteria, fungi to produce bio inputs and to reduce the fertilizers and chemical application. In the same line, fertilizer reduction, we see an important opportunity with the coffee pulp. Normally, the first thing recommended when we have the coffee pulp is introduce it in a composting process, and start generating organic fertilizer. And that depends on the soil conditions, and we can give back the nutrients being extracted from soil and that are in the coffee fruit. Something important, the coffee pulp for our industrial process, when by industrial processes, not the crop, but the industrial process, the coffee pulp represents for us 80% of greenhouse gases emissions. And the coffee pulp, if we want to generate a reduction of emissions, we need to focus in the coffee pulp. We may focus in making the process more efficient, in reducing the consumption of water, but the most contribution is in the coffee pulp. In the cooperative, these 30,000 tons I commented, we processed them simultaneously to the harvest. We initiate the composting process. Currently, we have a compost of intermediate grade, which may be improved yet. And there is also a registered product, or two products we have registered, Tierra Fecunda and Ecofertil, which are on a marketing process right now. In relation to the composting and the coffee pulp, it's important to mention that we need to control the process, so we need to technify. This is something after 8 years we have been learning that the process needs to be technified. We need to establish quality controls, and something important as well is to generate information related to the greenhouse gases emissions. So we know, for example, that our composting process per kilogram of pulp, coffee pulp, 129 grams of methane are generated, and those goes into the atmosphere. So from this information, we can generate projects aimed to improve or reduce these emissions and to optimize the process, reducing the composting time, and to generate more availability of the nutrients. In this case, for example, in cooperation with the University of Stuttgart, we were able to have a project and after 3 years, with the inclusion of some materials within the composting process, that led us to improve the relation carbon and nitrogen. We were able to reduce the emissions of these 129 methanes per kilogram of pulp to 29 grams of methane, which is almost 75% reduction of methane emissions in this case. And we were also able to generate fertilizer, in this case, with more availability of nutrients for the coffee plant. We coordinate this after several studies we carry out with the Stuttgart University, as well as studies on our own in our cooperative. This material led us to use the fertilizer as raw material and to develop what we know as the ecofertil. Ecofertil or ecofertile is what we call organic amendment, but the intention is that this may turn in the future into organic mineral fertilizer. It needs to be designed. In this case, it is designed according to the needs of our producers. Basically here, this is a product where 70% of the organic matrix is used, in this case, the compost. And we add some minerals to complement some deficiencies of our soils. The aim is to reduce somehow the nitrogen fertilizers and to fulfill the goals of Green Covenant that is asking us that for 2030 we need to have a 20% reduction of nitrogen fertilizers in order to reduce greenhouse gases emissions. And on the other hand, we should not forget And this is related to the bioinput projects where we are trying to make a reduction of the use of pesticides aligned with the request of the Green Pact Covenant, a reduction of 50% for 2030. So here we see an opportunity to generate new businesses, in this case with compost, to develop a new product that may be applied in coffee, and not only in coffee, but in the region where the cooperative is located, we produce avocado as well. And part of what we do with the organic fertilizer is to give it back to producers to fulfill this nutrient recycling process, which is some 185,000 bags provided to producers, some of them, besides the bags, they take it in bulk, and that lets to generate the structure of the soil. Remember that composting, let's say application, eradication of carbons, we are contributing to the reduction of emissions process. So this is how this composting field looks like. Here we have some 6 hectares to manage coffee pulp. And as I was saying, we generate other products such as flour. They have a product for cattle. And currently we are working on an interesting project to generate biogas using the mucilage of the coffee pulp. The coffee pulp also offers an interesting potential to obtain biomaterials, byproduct rich in lignin, which we use to create some biomaterials. And this is part of this potential the coffee byproducts have that we try to use here in Costa Rica. To conclude, some reflections that I would like to leave in this forum. Investing in bioeconomy projects allows us to solve challenges and visualize opportunities to boost the cooperative's business or the companies that are involved in the coffee sector. The bioeconomy led us to offer added value to our product and differentiate ourselves in competitive markets. In Central America, as such, we have a huge potential to generate this differentiation. We need to be clear that if you want to invest in this type of projects, long-term projects, the company need to be clear and must include them within the long-term strategy. We cannot wait the results short-term. So we need to be tolerant to make mistakes and to have some tolerance to the failure as such. As in any innovation project, there are things that may go well, others that not necessarily give the results expected, but it is still a result that tell us the way we should not take. So I used to say that when we invest in this type of projects, let's make mistakes as fast as possible at the lowest cost possible. A bioeconomy project must be based, yes or yes, on solving a specific need of the cooperative or the company with whom we are developing the project. It must solve a specific need of the member or of a potential customer or a current customer or a potential customer. All these projects must respond to a market need because we may have the best project of the world, but if the market does not accept our product or it's going to be difficult for us to succeed. Hans mentioned this a while ago. The governmental support and a robust institutional framework are needed to support and promote this project. We need more investment in research and development to support bioeconomy-based projects and the use of byproducts, coffee byproducts, because particularly for small companies, the burden of funding the research and development is heavy, and in some cases, sometimes it is not the importance of permanence of research and development products is not understood, but the research and development is what led us to know, to learn, and to generate projects that led us to differentiate ourselves in the market and that led us to generate new business models. I believe that the use of coffee byproducts can let us to transform the business model we're used to in relation to coffee, to stop depending on the international price, to stop depending so much on the international price. We do not have any control over how the price is set. And I also believe that it is a responsibility, not only from the point of view, from the environmental point of view, but also from the economic and social point of view, to develop projects that led to use coffee byproducts and that led to explore this potential that exists behind the fruit. In some companies, this turns into value added for small coffee producers that need it so much. So with this, I end my presentation. I remain at your service.
Electrónico. Si en algún momento consideran que les puedo colaborar en algo, estamos para servirles. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. You have my email and my contact information. If you need anything from me, let me know. Thank you very much, Mr. Porras, for your presentation and sharing with us this great potential and this assortment of products that can be prepared with the different byproducts from coffee production, your contributions and business opportunities that can come out of those byproducts, as well as the culture, right? That culture of sustainable production that Copetarasu has right now. So now we will have Mr. Roberto Salazar, who is the manager of Coca-Ferol in Honduras, whom will show us how they implemented innovative techniques for an ecological production. He is a public accountant and a business manager. He is the general manager for Coca-Ferol with 24 years of experience in the coffee supply chain, production, processing, and commercializing. He is a professional coffee taster with a Q grader certificate. He is the president of the CARFE, Latin America Small Coffee Production Association, and also president of the board of directors of the Honduran Coordinator for Small Fair Producers, HTPP. And he's also looking for areas to improve coffee production. So we give you Roberto Salazar from Coca-Cola. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you to share what we are doing in our COP. Well, Coca-Cola, we recently turned 23 years old. We started when we had the coffee crisis in 1999. In fact, one of the concerns we had was how to mitigate the issue of the contamination with byproducts to the local communities. Can I have the presentation on the screen, please? So our philosophy when we started the co-op was to look into the environmental area. How do we use all of the byproducts, and not only the coffee byproducts, but also we looked into other byproducts that could help us throughout the region. I think we lost Roberto's audio. And we have an investigation. We had several investigations. For example, a lot of minerals and organic materials. Our foundation, its commitment was to produce coffee in harmony with the environment. And for that, we wanted to process the products for the co-op. We have also in our coffee mill, we are receiving about 100,000 100,000 sacks of coffee cherry, and we also receive a lot of pulp and a lot of silica. And if we go on the next slide, please. Right now, we are currently producing this organic fertilizer based on coffee pulp, as well as other solids, foliage, and we're looking into other byproducts to see what else can we use so that we can return this product to the soil without any contaminants and to use them as much as possible. We started considering that the coffee pulp and the mucilagos, if we throw it into a water source, such as a creek or a river, it's going to be contaminating. But if we put it into a barn and we dry it, especially the pulp, or we combine it with foliage, and it becomes raw material for better production. Right now, we have a very good procedure going. We have a facility that I believe is the second biggest facility in the country, and the reusing or the using of this subproduct has become the third line of revenue. The co-op, what used to be waste for everybody else, we turn it into a source of revenue for us. On the next slide, please. So as our colleague from Tarasu was saying, coffee produces a lot of byproducts. In fact, all the byproducts that are useful, they can be useful. And right now we are using 500 pounds of coffee cherry to produce 100 pounds of dried parchment coffee. So it says that 400 pounds of those 500 pounds are, most of it is water, but there's a lot of byproduct there, which is something that we can turn into products such as organic fertilizer. Right now, we also are, processing it. It's curious what happens with the foliage, for example. When we are in harvest, in mid-harvest, we store the best mucilagus. And when we see that the coffee cup of our coffee cup is at a high, and we start storing the mucilagus that we're going to use to do our foliage. But that means that it's very closely related to the quality of the coffee as well. The quality of the mucilagus to produce foliage has to be very good, same as the quality of our coffee. And next slide, please. And so, to be able to go through this entire process, we have been researching for years, right, through our labs. And in just a moment, I'm going to explain how do we do organic analysis of everything that we produce. We use all local materials. We decided to use only local materials so that our product can be had a very low price. And we started about 12 years ago looking into all the different mineral sources we had around the area. And we are using red rock, black rock, we are using white rock, and we are using a lot of sand, that river sand, that sand that it's not really useful for construction because it's a combination of soil and sand, and it's a good source of minerals and nutrients for our plants. So we use it a lot. The one that the construction sites don't use, we use it a lot in our facilities. We also use everything that the co-op mill puts out, and we have the ash from the ovens. It's an important source of phosphorus and silicon. And we also using sand, as I mentioned before. We use the pulp, we use the shells. Oh yes, we also are using other other byproducts. We at some point were using the charcoal created from the ovens as well. We were using it, all of it. We put it together with the mountain microorganisms. We have a production of mountain microorganisms that is very big. We have a factory where we have been growing for years, and our base, our microorganism base, do almost everything. The fertilizer is applied in layers in our area, and at the end of 3 or 4 turns, 1 to 25 days, we have a brand new batch of organic fertilizer. Now, next slide, please. At the end of the 28 days, you see what we have here. We have a product that looks very good. It has a good presence. We have about 6,000 sacks of fertilizer a year. And generally, we also provide it with a fair price to our farmers, but we are also selling it at a national level and sometimes very close to the border to Guatemala and El Salvador. We are located in the Trifinio, very close to the Guatemalan and Salvadorian border with Honduras, and we have a lot of people buying from Guatemala and from El Salvador and part of Honduras. This is a product that we have been improving. In fact, we initially started with a lot of wet products, and through process and investigations, we realized that it had to be done with all dry matter so that it didn't wash away the nutrients. So we added an oxidation process to remove the water from the pulp. And at the end, we come up with a very good product. And next slide, please. Okay, so the most difficult part to control in our coffee mills, and it's the most contaminant part due to the pH, is the wastewater, because this is a high pH water that goes to a creek, goes to the river and kills. We had a spill of one of our oxidation lagoons, and we were very concerned because when it got to the river, it was killing everything, right? And so we were able to control all that. All of our silicas go through an oxidation a pond, and we are able to remove the water, right, to have a better product. And then we started in the year 2000. When we started, we had 1,000 liters of water. Now we are close to 45, 50 liters. That was the first thing we did, is to have the proper equipment so that we didn't have that excess use of water. Then we went into a process to regulate the pH, and it goes into our tanks. Once we regulate the pH, we go into the tanks where we keep about 30 to 45 days, where we add other nutrients, right? And we are also using a lot of rocks. We're using a lot of ash. Every now and then we use a cow serum, which is also very good, full of nutrients, and to optimize it and to get a good product at the end. We have a factory that we produce about 200,000 liters a year, and this is one of the most profitable products that we have, right? It's very easy to produce it, and at the end, we have a good market as well for our other products. And let's go into the next slide, please. Okay. So for quality control analysis, right, to make sure that we have the organic bio that is the right time, that is the right type of bio, we have a Japanese technique that is not let's see if I can explain it in a very simple way. It's taking a picture of every batch of every sample. We don't send it to a lab, but we have our own chromatography lab. On the picture you see on your right side of your screen, those circles there, that is a picture that we take out of the soil, the serum, and with a reactive of silver chromium. And then here we see the amount of minerals, the amount of microorganisms, and the amount of organic material included in our soil sample. This is an analysis which we implement on each batch of on organic fertilizer, be liquid or be in solids. And some very good tests are very effective, and it gives us an idea of how each organic fertilizer batch should be. And it becomes very cheap to do the analysis this way because at the end of the day, it's simple. It's a very simple process to be able to do this ourselves. Next slide, please. Then, same as Tarasu, we've been doing some tests with the pulp, or the coffee pulp, looking into turning it into flour or and using it in baked goods. That's has shown very good results. Although the process of processing the pulp for flour, it's very expensive, and the market is not paying for it. In fact, there are some buyers, especially from Germany. They wanted a coffee pulp, dehydrated coffee pulp, but they were unable to pay very little for it. So it was better to use organic fertilizer than trying to process it for consumption. But in the future, we can look into continue to implement it. Next slide, please. Now, some of the challenges that we have, we continue to research. We continue to research. We want to look into, and we have some possibilities going into coffee lumber, or burn wood, where it has a lot of heat, stored heat there, such as using burn wood and the coffee plantation. We also have products related to other byproducts, such as the ground coffee, the used ground coffee that is not good for consumption. We met with the scientists from the United States to see if we can maybe get the oils for cosmetics or something like that. And so we continue to move forward. And the idea is to look into, like our colleague from Tarasu said, is this is something that should be part of the plans of each institution, of each co-op. We cannot see this as an isolated effort. No, it has to be another line of investment of the co-op or the institution. It has to be another process. We have to be aware that this it could be a very good source of revenue for the institution, right? And very recently, we had some research that if in Honduras we would process just 50% of the coffee Marcellus with of the production of our co-op, Honduras would save about $1 billion because we wouldn't be buying other materials from Europe, from the United States. And there are some fertilizers that are very expensive, for example. And for us, I don't know, $4, I think, is that we're selling it right now. But we were importing a product from Spain that had the cost of $50 a liter. And so there is a savings of $46 just by a liter of this. And when we did our analysis, our product was even better, or equal or better than the one we were buying from Spain. And so we have a great opportunity that if we're able to implement this in our countries, we have a great opportunity to generate a lot of wealth. Thank you, everybody, for your attention, and I'm at your disposal.
Muchísimas gracias al señor Roberto Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Roberto Salazar, General Manager for Coca-Cola, for your presentation and for reminding us the different advantages and benefits that we can get from using the byproducts that coffee production has, so that we can look into other products and also improve and increase the list of products and that can be used, as well as the different opportunities, business opportunities that this this process can provide. Now, to go a little bit more into details, so we're going to listen now to Sergio Mazariegos. He is the advisor from Guatemala, who will talk to us about his strategy and accomplishments on sustainable coffee production. Before giving him the floor for his presentation, let me read a little bit of his experience. Mr. Sergio Mazariegos is an agronomist supervising the coordinations of the differentiated coffee group of ASO Expro. Has over 10 years in the experience and identification of strategies for the positioning of the Guatemalan coffee in international markets. He has supervised project management that will allow us to improve the quality of the production of the companies associated to the Differentiated Coffee Association members, and so that we can look into new commercial opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Sergio Mazariegos. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? It's a pleasure to be here with all of you and to share with I thank you for the time that you give us and to talk about our experience with coffee. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are. HESPO is the Guatemalan Association of Coffee Experts. Our configuration is a little bit different from the one that we have heard from in Honduras and Costa Rica. Our coffee production in Guatemala is divided into 8 regions. These 8 regions have different producers, and each one of them have processes their own coffee. And we have worked from a export now is to promote the special coffees, the process for improvement and the recovery process. And we are looking into a regenerative agriculture and to really take advantage of the coffee and is giving it that quality that has always been a characteristic of Guatemalan coffee. The Differentiated Coffees Committee from Export is being chaired by Jose Martinez, and who has been very closely involved in the process of soil recovery and soil improvement and other topics that we hope we can share with you as it is a pleasure to be able to share with you as members of us export with the ICA, with the Canadian Embassy, that have taken the time to listen to us here. We hope that the information that we're going to prepare and share with you here today, it's going to be of a lot of, it's going to be very useful for all of you. So what to say about the managing of byproduct or waste in agriculture and in coffee agriculture? We see that waste in agriculture is not a waste exactly, but it's per se, but it is as a byproduct that we can look into other products, into other systems, included into our systems, in fact, to give added value to our products and to take advantage of the investment done by our coffee farmers. And just to give you an idea, we have over 35,000 coffee farmers, members of our association around the country, promoting their coffee. We promote international commerce of our coffee in the different international markets. And we are going to have the opportunity to look into what is the general objectives of our committee and of our institution, and it's basically to commercialize this special coffee of Guatemala so that we can, have that, be able to reach that and those demanding palates that require that excellent taste the Guatemalan coffee has. How do we do this? Well, we look to improve our technical capacity and the quality of our coffee, which is very important and relevant for each of our customers to know where is the coffee coming from, how is the coffee produced, which alternatives are we implementing, and especially the management of our natural resources that we are using to produce these coffees without, without destroying tomorrow, but making sure that we protect it. And so we are looking to position Guatemalan coffee in different international markets with this type of identity. Something very important for us is that we have bet on the quality of our coffee. We have created very special cups, a cup that is very special in the market. The market acknowledges its quality, its consistency, and its taste. And we have a lot of quality control processes such as the taster labs and a picture that generates that shows our coffee production areas that are agroforest managed and that we have the different gardens that we can see like the one in the picture. We have some plantas among other opportunities and to renew the coffee production areas that we'll see in next.
To produce a cup of coffee, it's not the process the consumer knows. The consumer cups or coffee. I hope you're doing the same thing. You're having a cup of coffee. So the berries takes 10 minutes or 15 minutes to produce a coffee, and it is not true. From the initial process, selection of seeds, and the process takes 5 years in order to get a cup of coffee. 5 years of effort, of work, working with the plants, with the seeds, with the nurseries, with the plantations, managing climate risk, everything that is around a cup of coffee. That's why we value a lot the cup of coffee. We try to position it in the best possible markets, niche markets that value our quality, but also uh, educated audiences, audience that are interested in knowing how we're managing each one of our resources, and mainly what we are doing with the right management of our basins, our production systems, and how we are managing waste. These are some data of Guatemala coffee production, 3.4 million, and Guatemala represents 2.46 percentage of the coffee exports, but our quality as coffees in Central America is appealing for world consumer. We have demands from all the planet, and this is reflected in Central America, and that gives us an important position to appropriately position our coffee. This is part of the Guatemalan coffee production systems, which are around 4 million hundredweights. And here the countries we export. Guatemala export 52% of the offer to North American market, 22% to Asia, 22% Europe, and 4% to other destinations. As you can see, our export to the international market, it's important to highlight that the international market requires good management practices of the coffee crop in full, the water used, biosafety, and other variables we will see in a while. And the diversity of markets gives us a great opportunity to reach different markets, different demands. It is important to highlight the growth of markets like Japan, Canada, South Korea markets, and Belgium. But besides requesting a high quality coffee, they ask us for a coffee that is responsible to the environment, to its management. Sustainable production of coffee in the differentiated coffees community includes the right management of natural resources, regenerative agriculture, and control, quality control from the field, post-harvest industrialization and export of coffee from Guatemala. With that, we can enjoy the qualities of specialty coffees from Guatemala. And we have factors that measure this sensibility in relation to the ecosystems, such as insects, birds, plants. All these stakeholders need to be in a balanced manner. And this picture is a San Marcos coffee picture, where I have the red cursor. We have our national bird, the quetzal, producing coffee, taking care of preserving the habitat for a quetzal or for other microorganisms or living beings is a delicate, fragile system, and we need to be precautious in relation to the agricultural practices, the agricultural management we apply to our production units. And with that, we can prove that biodiversity and the preservation of natural resources is alive in Guatemala's coffee plantations. We try to preserve these systems, as you can see. And with that, what are the conditions we have to succeed? Natural resources. We have in Guatemala more than 300 microclimates, heights going from 0 meters at the sea level. We start producing coffee from 300 meters up to 2,000 meters at the sea level. This diversity of microclimates, height, temperature, precipitation, this wealth of natural resources that Guatemala offers to produce a large variety of coffees to satisfy the international consumer. The average temperature of coffee production is 14 to 30 degrees Celsius, and something quite enriching. You can see here in the picture, we have 37 volcanoes in Guatemala. Some of them are active, and rivers, lakes, the two oceans, streams. So the ecosystem to produce coffee in Guatemala is a healthy ecosystem, ideal ecosystem. Here you can see a sample of a piece and one coffee production unit. This is lava fragment from this volcanic soils that surround Guatemala, Central America, and the volcano mountains. That makes the conditions are ideal. This porosity you can appreciate in the pictures let us to produce microorganisms in soils that preserve life. And that's why we have focused on a regenerative agriculture, agriculture that respects life, that preserves life, and that promotes life development. That's why coffee crop, we do not see coffee crop isolated from export products. As we see the full background of the coffee crop right from the beginning, from their genetic seeds, and how this can be used to produce a good coffee that could really last in time for next generations. We in Guatemala have production units that have exceeded more than 100 years of experience in coffee crop and that have moved from generation to generation. This is due to the care of our natural resources, as you can see here, coffee crops and the volcanoes, active volcanoes in front of them, volcanoes that are providing volcanic material, ash, water sources as our lakes, rivers, streams. Guatemala is rich in this type of resources. This is another picture of a mill, another volcano, another perspective, and we see the mountains range. The right use of our water resources, our forestry resources, and biomass makes our coffee plantations be integrated. Where do we work with the regenerative agriculture? We work with regenerating the crop, soil conservation, inclusion of organic matter, and plant protection from soil, from wastewater, all the whole system that we try to make a good use of it, managing the plant protection of soil, coffee crop, and forestry biomass, nutrients, recycling. It is very hard to invest, to buy chemical synthesis materials. In this conference, we have mentioned that a high percentage, over 80%, is considered waste. So let's take advantage of this waste to include it in the system, into the soil, and giving back life to soil. Our role has been preserving the soil, regenerating the life of soil. And this situation we try to preserve and to have it the best possible manner. The use of solar energy for the use. This is one of our plantation with compost and the development of this seedlings is important. So just for you to have an idea, I was in this nursery that will have the harvest for 2024. There we have 15 million coffee plants, and we are regenerating the genetics, we are regenerating the preservation. And how do we work here? We work, this has an interesting system, which is with paper paper with corn. This is biodegradable, and the material gets to the field with the good behavior and good growth. And this is the way to develop the new seed beds, adding nutrients, adding resources. But everything begins here. We are trying to have integrated system. This is a system of a small grower where the resources were limited, but there are photocells and the root for energy generation, harvesting of rain to manage the mills, the solar dryer. And what do we have inside? We have a biomass production system using the fermentations, and they turn into nutrients. We work a lot with the biologic control for rust, for any part of remnant of coffee to include it and to prepare composting. This material is transformed into materials that we return to coffee plantation or putting them into compost processes after having treated the pulp, the green waste of the fur of the farm. We do this, and this turns into a material that may be foliar manure or solid manure. Soil preservation is key. This soil preservation helps us to have a better resource, living soils, and with that we can see coffee plantations in these conditions, a healthy condition, a good condition and balanced condition. The challenge is to find balanced ecosystems to balance coffee qualities, offering good conditions, and the coffee growing in Central America is to have coffee plantations offering these conditions, and that we hope this harvest, we expect harvest for this year. These pictures were taken last week, and we are prepared to have the new coffee cups. Coffee cuts, I'm sorry, trying to fulfill the exigence of taste. And here we reach the right maturing condition, processing them appropriately with the right management of byproducts of the mill, the hygiene of the mills. They are not large mills that concentrate the harvest. Each grower has its own mill. He carries out the process independently, classifying the quality of his coffee, processing his coffee in fermentation, washing it with clean water, managing appropriately the water resource, drying appropriately the coffee, using solar energy, which is our main source to dry coffee in yards or nurseries. And all this, you can see here, I have the lot or micro lot of coffee, and this is the way we market our coffees. Lot, micro lot with the exceeding characteristics. With that, we have been able to position Guatemala's image as an important coffee from Guatemala. And then in the dry mills, what we deliver in the dry mill is dry parchment coffee that comes from production units, and each lot delivered has a record. The origin, the process, the coffee grower, and that they help us to have this quality control. Capping of each coffee lot is a detailed work of each process, but that gives us the certainty that of our coffee offer to participate for specialty coffees from Guatemala and demanding markets. Coffee industrialization is an important process. We have certifications that support these processes, such as fair trade, USD organic, fair trade, among others. We also develop a whole industry around coffee We market directly in Guatemala finished products, roasted coffee. We have found in Guatemala coffee a profitable business with a profitable market niche. The differentiation, we have been working for the past 20 years, mainly with a lot of devotion to find this alternative of this market, this trends, and to find a win-win situation for a coffee cup consumed in Guatemala. The benefit reaches the producer to preserve the important ecosystems. We conduct commercial activities. Our next coffee trade fair will be from March 13 to 15, 2024. Something important that we should not separate is the training, the education with productivity, with the business development. And to do so, we have created this title, this degree, differentiated coffee export. This is, we're going to have celebrate the 21st edition of students, 1,000 students that have obtained this degree. So my contact information is here. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Mazariegos, and thank you for sharing your experiences. Right now, we're going to move to our questions and answers session. Concerns have been socialized with us through the chat box, and we're going to read the questions as they were stated. The first question is made by Mr. Jorge Escobar and says, what effects have these products had in improving the returns and the intrinsic quality? So any of the panelists that would like to answer the question, let me repeat the question again. What effects, positive effects, have these products had in improving the returns and the intrinsic quality? Yes, Mr. Mazariegos, go ahead. For the person who asked the question, we have had a crisis system has led us to manage coffee byproducts and natural products. We saw the increase of input cost. We saw an increase of managing a conventional system, and we started working with a regenerative agriculture because of cost matters. We started efficiently managing our resources, making a better use, involving people in the chain, and this costs have been reduced 50% for us. Another factor is that by having a more balanced ecosystem, we have been able to produce better quality cups with more details, working in productivity, quality, and processes. It is very important to have the right management of processes, milling, wet milling process, dry milling process, and with that, we can improve the quality. The quality is not created in the processes. The quality is created right from the field, working in a better soil condition, better life of the soil. The plant will see, as you saw in the picture, in optimal conditions to offer the best characteristics those coffee plants offer. Thank you. Very briefly, if any other panelists would like to intervene. If not, we move to the next question. Okay, so let's move to the second comment. It is a comment, what we have instead of a question. This is done by Mr. Hugo Hernandez. It says, greetings to authorities. We thank for this webinar as preamble to develop theoretical and practical seminars for the region. My comment is that this webinar is a big first step to the existing need or campaigns, raising awareness, generation of knowledge, to establish strategies and mechanisms to make a good use of the hundreds of small growers, which are the majority in our countries. and gradually they can move to best sustainable practices that will contribute to the profitability and competitiveness of producers of the coffee chain. Thanks for the initiative. Thank Mr. Hugo Hernandez for your comment. Now let's move to the third question asked by somebody identified as ER, and it goes this way. To create the manure, is it possible to expand the prior treatment of the coffee residue before combining this with ash or sand to develop manure? Is it possible to expand the treatment, the prior treatment of the coffee waste before combining with ash or sand? What type of test or analysis has been applied to the manufactured manure? So who would like to answer? Well, we can use the pulp fresh or a little bit old. What we do is we remove water for the pulp to be really dried, and then we start making the layers with the products. As I said, this takes some 30 days in doing so. So 4 or 5 times. After that, we do the test till we reach a point where we believe it is the right point. We have a picture of a chroma to see that everything is correct. Also, what we try to do is that growers receive a good product and a product well standardized. Thank you, Mr. Salazar. Anyone else that would like to intervene? To complement, to supplement the answer, to give a different opinion. Yes, Mr. Mazariegos, it is not only based on the nutritional side, it is based on a good management of soil, the right management of soil, and besides respecting the nutritional analysis of the soil, we carry out a microbiologic analysis of soil, and we have seen how microbiology of soils have improved, and that led us to a better system, a better condition, a better transformation of the organic matter. When I have microbiology high, the distribution is more appropriate in the soil. It is more available with the identification process, and the plant behaves completely different. I could say that we have been more resistant to drought things. We have experienced a severe droughts, but we have managed microbiology pretty well and the organic matter. We have managed well the preservation of soil, and the impact is lower. So I invite you to make a good use of the natural resources and production units of coffee. Let's make a good coffee growing because you will have a buffer ecosystem with a better capacity to mitigate impacts and to deal with the different challenges that climate change is making in the coffee growing activity. Thanks, Mr. Mazariegos. Let's move to the last question. Last question. Well, Mr. Lagamon has typed another question, but okay. We say question number 4 is from Mr. Jose Inés Basamota, and says, the analysis of the product is similar to the important one, but the answer of the crop to the treatments. So it seems it's a follow-up of one of the presentations. The analysis of the product is similar to the important one, but the answer of the crop to the treatments, if any panelists would like to answer. Or Mr. Basamata could explain a little bit more in your question to get an answer to your concern. Well, let me add a little bit, just to understand. We cannot compare a conventional system to a biologic agriculture or regenerative agriculture system. They are not away one from the other one. They are supplementary. So it does not mean that product is different. What we are using is to make good use of the natural resources. And when we have a managed ecosystem and microbiology, soil wealth, any product, any input we use of ABC source, the answer and the behavior are going to be better. Mr. Masamota added a little bit to the initial question. He says he refers specifically to the foliar product mentioned that is replacing the one imported from Spain. This is what he meant in his question. Let me finish my idea. It behaves better. For example, in foliar, we are in the structure of nano agriculture. The foliar behavior is good enough, but the comparison, those who talked about the foliar systems could complete my answer. Could you repeat the question, please? Could you repeat the question for me, please? The question, specifically, question says, the analysis of the product is similar to the imported one, but the answer of the crop to the treatments, and he says, I refer to foliar product mentioned that is replacing the imported product from Spain, or the product imported from Spain. Yes, the test we have done at the field level, it has been pretty good. They have been pretty good. Relating this to the previous question, how this work in productivity or quality. There is a product that we generate that we call as so we add potassium, and that helps us for ripening in our plantations reaches almost 100%. So that makes growers to get the more productivity. Yes, we are very happy because products are pretty good, similar to the imported ones. Thank you, Mr. Salazar. Well, if there are no other questions from the for the panelists, I just want to say that yes, this has been our last question in this panel of questions and answers. A comment from Mr. Jorge Escobar. It will be interesting to assess the quality with these ripening devices. And now I'll give the floor to AICA Canada's group, where our ambassadors are together, as well as the commission with Mr. Lively. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Thanks, Nigel. Fantastic moderation. Good job. My sincere thanks to all the presenters. I've learned a lot. I always learn a lot, actually. Blown away by all the amazing environmental efforts. And, you know, this is like the second most traded commodity on the planet after oil. So it's a major, major commodity that I was saying earlier that it can play a leadership role. And to speak to Sergio's comment about quality, like we can ruin a really good quality bean when we prepare coffee. People over roast it, it's too dark, it's burnt, so quality is along the entire supply chain. And most Canadians, and we learned that at the coffee fair a couple years ago, we did a 2-day coffee fair here, and most of us don't prepare coffee properly. So there's a lot of work to be done still about knowledge and savoir-faire about how to prepare a good coffee. Most people don't sit down. The trend is, yes, sustainable is more interesting now, good for the world and good for me. But what you're seeing more, the trend is decaf. And rather, that's where the growth is. It's not responsibly produced. It's not sustainable. There's a whole discussion about behaviors by consumers that we could have, and we could do that another time maybe. But I do want to congratulate all the speakers. Want to thank you for all your time. My thanks to the interpreters in Costa Rica. My thanks to my team here for the logistics. My thanks to Sica for the partnership. Once again, fantastic webinar. We hit almost close to 60 participants. And the webinar will be posted online on our website at the ICA Canada page. And a toast to all of you for all your good work. And a quick comment, if I may, to Jimmy, when you express your carbon greenhouse gases, don't use methane. People use CO2 equivalents. And so you'll have to multiply your figures by 84 so that the world can then understand better your figures, because you're doing a fantastic job. And if I had more time, I'd ask more about how to scale up the other smaller farmers and what kind of minimal thresholds business needs to be able to implement some of the bioeconomy practices you have. But we'll do that another time. Sincere thanks from ICA Canada, from the House of Agriculture here in Ottawa. I'll pass it over to the President Pro Tempore of Sica in Ottawa, His Excellency Ricardo Cisneros.
Muchas gracias, Jean-Charles,
Thanks, Jean-Charles, for receiving us here in ICA Canada. Thanks, the speakers, for your presentations. Café Law and Export and Copetarazu have learned a lot about our own coffee industry, but particularly we see that there is a lot of empiric knowledge that grew, and there are many things to share. So as I said in my introduction, I invite you to share this information, this knowledge with our producers in our countries to improve the qualities of the use of these products and all this waste, because that is new income for the growers. The market is demanding more and more. They demand more and more certification of environmental products that preserve the biodiversity. So reasons makes us to continue with this effort to regenerate all this waste, and that will reduce will reduce greatly the impact, environmental impact. Thanks. Thank you so much for the team from our embassies. Thanks to ICA Canada team, the Jean-Charles team, and it is a pleasure for us to continue with this partnership and developing knowledge topics. Thank you very much.